Welcome aboard another episode of the Hot Air Sports Podcast with me, Macca, and my good mate Mahona. How are you this week, bud?
Oh, I'm not too bad, mate. Not too bad. We haven't spoken for a couple of weeks, so we've got plenty to get through, haven't we? So we'd better crack on into it, mate. I've got your show list here, about page 45, subsection 4. Come on, let's do it, mate. We've got so much to get through. Let's crack on.
Right,
so much into the sports world.
Right into football. And the cream appears to be rising to the top in the Premier League, with Man City churning through the gears after they've had, I think, 8 league wins in a row now.
9.
While Liverpool have picked up a maximum 6 points after 2 good wins in London. How about that second goal from Mohamed Salah on the weekend against West Ham? Just pure class. Well, Man United, although they've had a win this morning, Leicester and West Ham have all dropped points in recent days. So, interesting comment from Jamie Carragher and Roy Keane the other day after the weekend's games, saying that Man United got to the top and then were almost seemed as though they were embarrassed to be there.
Yeah, I mean, Manchester United flattered to deceive, don't they, mate? They were picking up points where others weren't. They had a kind of an easy draw. They've got harder teams to come, mate. I think they'll finish probably in the Europa League spots for me. I mean, maybe top 4 if they're lucky. But they really were never going to have the squad to compete with Manchester City and Liverpool, if you ask me. The cream has definitely come into the top. 9 wins in January is the most by any team. Manchester City did that. They are really clicking through the gears, but so are Liverpool now. Have come through that difficult period. 2 wins in London over the last few days, and things are looking rosy for Liverpool again. Of course, also the lack of goals. When the season first started, there were so many goals being scored. Now it's back to the mean. It's actually slightly lower than the average season. So everything's sort of evening out, and the cream is definitely rising to the top. I can see City and Liverpool sort of pulling away from the pack in the next few weeks, if you ask me.
Yes, and there's a big game coming up over the weekend at Anfield.
Massive.
Where the Blue Boys come for a visit. Of course, both teams have got games tomorrow, so we'll see how they get on with those. Talking about Mohamed Salah, former Liverpool player and manager Graham Souness has called him greedy. But don't strikers need to be greedy? That's what I say. He said that as a player, Kenny Dalglish would be fuming with someone like Salah. But he actually played alongside Ian Rush, probably one of the most greedy and greatest strikers in the game. What do you think of that comment?
Strikers have to be greedy. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. Look, Souness, what a player he was, man. He was a great player. He was an average manager, and to me, he's a hopeless pundit. He's just always miserable. Just wants to be miserable about everything. Even Liverpool, man. He's a bit like Steve Nicol. I used to love Steve Nicol as a player, but he's just so miserable. I don't know whether it's the Scot in them or what it is, mate, but shut up, really. I mean, Salah, he's scored over the last 4 seasons. He scored, I think, or was it 5 seasons? He scored over 20 goals.
4 seasons.
He's the first player since Ian Rush to do that. If that makes you selfish, it's just what Liverpool have needed for the past 20 years, mate.
Totally. I wish we'd had more selfish strikers over the years.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know where he's coming to with it. I think he's just trying to create controversy where there is none, mate.
Yeah, so finally some relief at the back for Liverpool. Tell us about these 2 guys.
Yeah, mate. Ben Davies is coming from Preston. He's a bit of a journeyman. He's gone out on loan a few times. I think he's 25 years old. He's going to take the number 28. And they sort of sounds like to me they've signed him for mentality. He sounds like he's a very good passer of the ball, not the most robust type of guy, but can pass out from the back and a great attitude. So that's why they've signed him. Not much money. I think it's a nominal fee of about $500,000, rising to about $2 million with bonuses. So they haven't spent much money there. The other guy is an interesting one, Ozan Kabak from Schalke, who have been doing terribly in the Bundesliga, but he's only 20 years old. He's a Turkish guy. He's more of your aggressive type of centre back. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops. I think he's one for the future. Once again, though, Michael Edwards and Klopp have pulled out a masterstroke. They haven't paid any money. He's on loan till the end of the season. We've sent young centre-back, Sepp van der Berg, to them. Sent them the other way to Schalke. as cover for them while he's with us. Basically, he's got half a season to prove himself. If he doesn't show much pop, we can send him back to there. No skin off our nose. And but we needed some players to play at the back. Obviously, Henderson and Fabinho, they've been doing such a great job there, but they can't play there forever, can they, mate? And we need them in the midfield to release the rest of our players. And I think that's been half the problem with us not scoring goals in the last little while. So, yeah, pretty happy with those two signings, to be fair.
Yeah, one of the things I did hear about Ben Davis was that he actually won the Preston Player of the Year, not last year, but the year before.
Yeah.
And has proven himself as to being a regular. I think he was ever present last season.
He was their Player of the Year, wasn't he?
Yeah, Player
of the Year. Yeah.
Yep. I think they're both very good buys. I think what we need to comment on, though, is the fact that Nat Phillips has been playing outstandingly at the back, come off the bench against Spurs and played the full game against West Ham the other day and did a great job, especially keeping Michael Antonio in his pocket. So could be hard on him. It'll be interesting to see how they do it, if they put the new boys straight in there or do they keep Henderson or Fabinho at the back to play alongside them. It'll be interesting to see what Klopp does, especially in the City game.
Yeah, who would you say would be first cab off the rank between the two of them?
Probably Davis.
Yeah,
because he's only travelled 10 miles. Whereas Quebec has only just arrived today or overnight into Liverpool. So whether they throw him straight in against Brighton in the morning, I don't know. We might see Phillips playing alongside maybe Henderson because Fabinho's still out, and possibly bring Davis off the bench. We'll just have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah, but that Matt Phillips, what a player.
Fantastic. Hey? Yeah.
He wants to play West Ham every week, mate. He's played them twice and 2 wins. No, mate, he's an honest to goodness old centre-back, isn't he, mate? I just like... Yeah. He hasn't got a lot of pace, but good in the air and, robust, and he knows his stuff. So I've really enjoyed watching him play over the last little while. It looks like Joel Matip looks like one of our centre-backs for the last couple of years. It looks like he's out for the season again. The guy is made of glass, mate. He's always injured. Is it time for us to cut our losses and maybe release him, given his history with injury?
I really feel sorry for the guy. He's actually a really good centre-back.
He is.
When fit, I mean, he formed a great partnership with Van Dijk a couple of seasons back when Van Dijk first arrived, and played just about every game alongside him. And Joe Gomez couldn't get in the team at that stage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the big thing with that is that he's still got 4 years left on a contract. So they might look to offload him, perhaps. I don't know whether they'll just release him, but they've got to do something, and he's just got to. I don't like to say toughen up, because I mean some of the injuries he's had haven't exactly been
unfortunate, eh?
Yeah, and I mean the injury against Spurs that he picked up, pretty tough.
Yeah. How long's he got to go on his contract? Do you know?
4 years.
Yeah,
he's only just signed a new contract a year ago.
Yeah, and he deserved to sign that contract. He was playing bloody well when he did. So, I mean, I doubt they'll cut their losses if he's got 4 years to go on his contract, mate. Get well and I mean, be cover for the other centre backs. It's not like we don't need injury cover at our club, is it? Hey, look, we were going to discuss this before he was traded to Southampton over the transfer deadline day, weren't we, mate? Takumi Minamino. Now, you and I have differing views on this fella. He's been with Liverpool for over a year now. He's not had a lot of games. Southampton have signed him on loan until the end of the season. Signed him on deadline day. What are your thoughts, first of all, on Takumi Minamino?
I haven't been overly impressed with him. I just don't know whether his physique or physicality is enough for the English Premier League. It'll be interesting to see how he goes when he gets a good run of games. Scored a good goal against Crystal Palace in the 7-0 win before Christmas, and his only other goal was in the Charity Shield or Community Shield against Arsenal at the beginning of the season. So he's not set the world on fire with his goal scoring. And I don't know. Jurgen Klopp likes him. because Southampton did want the option to buy him at the end of the season, but Klopp said no. And just reading an article this morning, Klopp considers Takumi Minamino as a project. So, he's done it before. I mean, when they first signed Andy Robertson, he couldn't get in the team for that first season, could he? He only played a handful of games with Moreno playing at left back. So whether it's the same situation there, and he just wants him to train with the side and play the odd game here and there for the first year, and the year's up now, isn't it?
Yep.
But yeah, I think if he can get a string of there's 17 games left for Southampton, and if he can play in 14 or 15 of those games, I think we'll really see what he's like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got similar views to Jurgen Klopp on Takumi Minamino. For a start, what we signed him for was a pittance, so I don't think we really have to worry about not making our money back because we got him on a minimum contract. I think we paid about $7 million for him, which isn't much in today's market. For me, he hasn't been given a proper shot of it. Last game he played any minutes in was that West Bromwich Albion game. He scored a goal. He played probably his best game in Liverpool, and he hasn't been cited back. I did read that article, maybe the same one that you've read today, where Klopp has been quoted as saying Takumi is an incredibly good player and we didn't give him enough chances. That's the truth. That's for different reasons. Sometimes it was size because of our problems in defence. We were not tall enough. And then Takumi was on the pitch and you think, okay, how can we do that then? Defending set pieces was an important part. If for the player, not too interesting. And for journalists, probably not too interesting. But in some moments, even these kind of things make the difference why one player is not playing and the other is not. So what he's basically saying there is he thinks pretty much the same as you, that it's probably the physicality side of things. If we had our full squad in, maybe he'd be a better option. But for me, he's been playing Origi a lot, and yes, Origi might be a bigger guy, and and he's got a good history of scoring goals, etc. But he's just been pants for a while, and I think he's been harshly treated. I would have given him more game time, but I'm just pleased that he's been transferred to a team like Southampton, where they run around a lot. Play a similar sort of style to us, sort of Liverpool light, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes. Good luck to the young boy. I hope he can come back and be, shine bright in the Liverpool squad.
Yeah, well, the Southampton manager Ralph Hasenhüttl is referred to as the Klopp of the Alps. So,
that's right.
Similar style of play. So, yeah, I hope he does well. But one lad who's ended his West Ham / David Moyes nightmare is All Whites captain Winston Reid. He's off to fellow London club Brentford for the rest of the season to try and help them get out of the Championship. Do you think the 32-year-old can rekindle his Premiership career after this year?
Yeah, well, there were rumours he was coming to Liverpool, wasn't there? I think that was beat up by the New Zealand press. To be fair,
so,
yeah. The reason I couldn't see him coming to Liverpool, he probably would have been a good option, is just one reason only, man. It's injury, and we can't have any more injuries. All our guys are injured, so there's no way we were going to be signing an injury-prone centre back to cover all our other injury-prone centre backs. So, but look, mate, if the guy can stay fit, there's no doubt about it. He's absolute class. He's a classy centre back. He could play for any team in the world, any club team. So I hope he does. He's just got to find full fitness and get some games under his belt.
Yeah, I think he'll do a good job for Brentford. Playing, they've got a real cult figure.
They do
in the middle of the defence, and Pontus Jansson, who was a long-time Leeds United player, but they had to move him on because the salary was just too much. But yeah, good luck to Winston Reid. I hope he does well.
Absolutely.
Arsenal had a busy transfer window, and they managed to get to offload two of their elephants in the room in Mesut Ozil and his £350,000 a week salary. And
I don't think they've offloaded the full amount of that yet. I think they're still paying some of that.
But they've also managed to offload cart horse centre back Shkodran Mustafi, who's replaced Ozan Kabak at Schalke. So good luck to Schalke.
Yeah, I really started squirming when I started reading that Mustafi we may be in for him as well. Yeah. I was like, please, no. I mean, surely anyone in our midfield would be better than him playing at the back. He's been pants for ages, so no, absolute no way. And Mesut Ozil, well, I'm just glad that he's got got a place to play at rather than just being on social media all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Arsenal actually had quite a good transfer.
They offloaded a couple of their youngsters on loan, and
Yeah.
Ainsley Maitland-Niles has gone to West Brom, and Joe Willock has gone to Newcastle.
Yeah.
And they also picked up on loan from Real Madrid Martin Odegaard, who was the so-called child prodigy out of Norway.
Wunderkind.
Signed as I think a 17-year-old as at Real Madrid.
Signed from Real Madrid, yeah.
Yeah, but hasn't really lived up to his teenage years promise.
No, he's been talked about for ages, as massively promising and all that sort of thing. It's just one of those things, isn't it? When you are that young and you end up heading off to Real Madrid, you don't get a lot of game time, do you?
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how he plays for Arsenal, because he really is a talent, and he does sort of play an Arsenal sort of style of football too. So, yeah, interested to see how he goes. But I do like this. I do like this young guy that's playing for Arsenal at the moment. The guy that plays with his socks down, in the number 10 role with the double-barreled name. What's his name? Can you think of him?
Oh, yes, I know the guy you're talking about. He got sent off against Southampton in the FA Cup, and the VAR rescinded it.
That's right. Smith Rowe. I love him. Yeah. I love him. He's a real throwback type of player. Runs around like crazy. Does these little beautiful 1-2. Seems to love the quick, fast passing game. He's a real throwback to the Arsenal of old. I love watching that guy play. And it must be a bit of a kick in the teeth when you go and sign Martin Odegaard to play in your position when you've been playing so well. So
yeah, well, they had a great day today, going down 2-1 to cellar dwellers Sheffield United.
Sheffield United. Hey, they're coming back.
Sideshow Bob got sent off. David Luiz.
Oh, did he? Oh, he's a liability.
He's now the most sent-off player in the Premier League history.
Is he really? How many?
6 red cards now.
Wow.
Given away countless penalties.
Yeah.
And also the goalkeeper, Bernd Leno, was sent off as well. So
did he?
Not sure what.
They should never have sold their second goalkeeper. That guy is playing so well for Villa. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's actually better than Leno, so I can't believe that. Also, in the past week just gone, mate, we've lost one of the Premier League's managers, and a playing legend, Fat Frank Lampard, is sacked as Chelsea manager. Roman Abramovich continuing the steady stream of full-time bosses at Stamford Bridge, now sitting at 12 managers that he's had during his tenure. I think, how long's he been there? About 20 years now?
2003 he took over.
2003. So he's been there 18 years and had 12 managers. So basically a manager every year and a half or so.
Well, that includes 2 stints for Mourinho and Hiddink.
And now he's appointed former PSG boss Thomas Tuchel. Since he bought the club in 2003, obviously all those other bosses, other top clubs over the same period. Arsenal has had 3 in the last 18 years. Manchester United 4, but they've had 4 in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. Liverpool and Everton have had 6 managers. Manchester City 7 and Spurs 9. The Chelsea guys, they go through the managers, don't they? And poor old Frank, you're gone.
Added to that 12, they've had about 3 or 4 temporary managers that have, finished out a season with, 1, 2, 3, 4 games. So you could probably sit that number at about 16 or 17
crazy,
over the time period. And other clubs too have had temporary managers. So Everton has had Duncan Disorderly was temporary manager for a while, and David Unsworth. And of course, Man United, Ryan Giggs was in charge.
That's right.
The end of one season. So yeah.
What do you make of the sacking of Fat Frank though?
Oh, it was probably coming, but I do feel a wee bit sorry for him.
You dance with the devil, Macca.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and Abramovich has already said that if Tuchel doesn't get them into the Champions League spots, he's gone.
He's gone. Yeah. Well, he's only signed him for 18 months.
Yeah.
So, he's nothing if not transparent.
Oh, exactly.
But
it was probably coming. Chelsea have not been playing well recently. No. They started out with a hiss and a roar after spending over 200 million in the transfer window in between seasons. He had a good year last year, taking the side into the top 4 and also getting to the FA Cup final. So yeah, I think, and that was last year. He had no transfer
That's
window.
right. That's right. He actually did. He did. I think he did better last year with the young guys, didn't he? He sort of could mold them a little bit better. This year, I think he's really struggled with trying to integrate some of those guys into the team. And I just don't think he really ever knew what his best team was. And of course, Werner and Havertz, the guys that they spent so much money on, they have not settled and played their best football. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really feel sorry for him because he's had a pretty cruisy run, if you ask me. You know, he's had a pretty cushy job. He got the Derby job. He did pretty well there, and he's had a pretty cruisy ride at Chelsea. I think he'll get another job, whether it's in the Premier League or maybe the First Division. Who knows? Maybe he can go and coach Celtic. Who knows? Hey, take on Stevie G. That'd be interesting.
Stevie G. Just finishing off on the transfer deadline day, it was the quietest since 2012. It was the first time less than 100 million had been spent since then. Just 84.2 million, and of that, Manchester United spent 34 million on Ahmed Diallo in that transfer window. So take off that, there's only less than 50 million spent in lots of loan deals. I think you'll find probably about 75% of the transactions that occurred over that month-long transfer window were loan deals.
And there's one reason for that, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, COVID
and finance.
Yeah, well, it's the same with Barcelona's, financial state at the moment, how they're almost bankrupt and they've spent over $500 million on Messi over the last little while. Barcelona would have been fine. They would have been fine. But when you can't fit 90,000 in your home stadium every week, paying good money for those things, that's a lot of money you're going down the drain every week, and I mean, the way the transfer market's been going for years and years and years, everyone's saying, look, it's just out of control. It has to slow down eventually. And COVID's done that, hasn't it?
Well, I'm old enough now to remember back to the first £100,000 transfer.
No, it wasn't Trevor Francis. I was thinking he's the first million, wasn't he?
Jerry Daly went to Manchester City, for £110,000.
Is that Arthur's brother?
Yeah. That's the one.
That was your deal. I got a deal for you, mate. Got a deal
for you, my son. I'm not going to go on for too long about this, but more VAR controversy over the weekend. Robbed the goal for another armpit decision. The lawmakers have really got to just do something about that because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. The first one is the Mo Salah goal. How many actions do you have to go through before that's irrelevant? Because he was being manhandled by Eric Dyer. They just didn't even do anything about that. If anything, they should have brought it back for a free kick for us, but they didn't bother about that. Then it rebounded off Eric Dyer and rebounded onto Fabinho's arm, definitely not on purpose. And then we scored a great goal down the other end about 5 minutes later, and they pull it back. That's just stupid. The Danny Ings one. Did you see the Danny Ings one when they scored the goal in the last few minutes? That was just, once again, the sleeve. When are the strikers going to cut their sleeves off? That's what they need to do. They need to play like Aussie rules guys. Cut their sleeves off. We'll take it from the sleeve. Oh, it's way up here. They'll get ahead. Honestly, man, I'm saying it now. I know that sounds stupid, but that's the rule at the moment. If they're saying the sleeve, because that was just ridiculous. The bum and the sleeve. Can we just go by the foot? I mean, we make it so much easier.
Exactly.
VAR. And I liked what Mo Salah said afterwards. It's just killing the joy of football. He was asked a completely different question, by the way, and then he just brought up the VAR thing. I loved it. He just said, "No, it's killing the joy of football," and it is. It is.
Anyway, on to the other side of the world. The A-League continues, and Brisbane Roar are leading the competition.
They are.
Phoenix last week lost to Newcastle in Wollongong in a performance that coach Ufuk Talai wasn't happy with. But they turned that around with a hard-fought 2-1 win over previous leaders Central Coast Mariners. Now, this was a game and a half. Great goal from Ulysses Davila in the first half. Gave away a dodgy bloody corner goal, not defending well enough at the corner. And then the much maligned Joshua Soterio popped up with a absolute great
Lovely
finish
little finish.
with
Lovely
only a
little
couple of
finish.
minutes to go, and they it was a case of Central Coast Mariners absolutely bossed the second half,
Yeah.
but just couldn't score.
Well, that makes a change because
It
the
does.
Phoenix in their first two games had looked bloody good, but just couldn't score. This game they sort of didn't look well. They looked pretty good in the first half.
Looked good in the
Second
first
half
half.
second half they were sort of trying to hold the lead, but they could score. So yeah, what I was writing before that game about the Phoenix was, yeah, they're flattering to deceive. They're playing some good football. They're looking really great. But if you don't score goals and you don't win games, then it doesn't really matter. All that mattered was they won that game and got some
Absolutely.
points on the board, and they got the points on the board. So fair credit to them. And I'll tell you what, the A-League is a bloody good watch this year. I've watched a number of games and they're all great. I mean, I haven't watched a dull game. It's end-to-end football. It's like all the managers have just said, stuff it. Let's just play attractive football and try and get as many people watching as possible. And fair credit to them, man. It's a great league to watch at the moment, the A-League.
How was that Western United Perth Glory game last week? 5-4.
I know. It was like one side scored, the other side scored, then we scored, then they scored, and they scored. And it wasn't, at the end, if they had played for another hour, it could have been 13-12. It was just...
Of those 9 goals, only one was scored in the first half. It was 1-0.
No. 1-0 at half time, 5-4 at full time.
Yeah.
No, it was a ridiculous game, but
it was.
hell of a entertaining, mate.
Absolutely.
The new players at the Phoenix seem to be adapting well to Ufuk Talay's side. Tamar Hamed, I didn't really know much about this fella, but yeah, man, he showed flashes of brilliance, hasn't he? And got the assist on De Vea's goal. But generally quiet so far. Left back James McGarry, I think he was man of the match in the last game, and he's looking a chip off the old block of his father, Michael McGarry, back in the 90s. He's a proven an able replacement for Kakachi, and centre back Josh Laws looks a good fit as well. What are you making of the new signings?
Yeah, I think Hamed is going to be a very, very good player, very valuable player for the Phoenix. He's just taking time to get used to his surroundings. He's played all his football in Europe, so it is going to take him a few games to get used to the different style of football played on this side of the world. But yeah,
and the refereeing,
James McGarry, it's just like watching Michael again.
It is.
Uncanny. The way he just even walks and runs, that
Beautiful,
sort of languid style. And like Michael McGarry, I rate him as New Zealand's second best ever player.
He'd be top
superstar.
Yeah.
And if he goes into to go to Europe, he had plenty of offers to go to Europe, but no, he was quite happy in Dunedin in Christchurch. He obviously took his football seriously, but wasn't interested in travelling. So it's a bit of a shame for us football fans to not see the likes of him. I think he played 1 or 2 seasons in the old National Soccer League in Australia, but generally played for Christchurch United and Dunedin Technical, I think, were his 2 main clubs, and played a lot of games for the All Whites and was just an absolute superstar in the late 80s and through the 90s. Just a great player. And James, just as I say, is a carbon copy. Hoping he can do as well.
Playing a different position though, Macca.
Well, yeah, Michael was a winger. And I mean, James McGarry he's playing left fullback, but he does get forward a lot. So we are seeing him in similar positions to what his father used to be. Back when Michael was playing, the fullbacks didn't generally get as much forward as they do nowadays. But James, a real chip off the old block, and I do like Josh Laws at centre back. I think he's a good acquisition.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the Phoenix go over the next week or two. We'll keep an eye on them, and you can keep it anchored right here. We'll keep you in touch with how the Phoenix are getting on and all the football news from around the world. Let's change bases, mate. Let's go to cricket. The Black Caps. Woo! The final. The Black Caps have made the final of the first ever Test World Championship at Lord's. The Black Caps are qualified. Who are we going to play? We've got 3 options. We can play India. We can play England, we can play Australia. So there's 3 options. So basically, Australia have cancelled their tour to South Africa, which means that we're definitely in the final. There's a series going to go on between England and India. In India, depending on the results of that, one of 3 teams can meet us in the final. Who you got to meet us in the final, Macca?
Yeah, well, I would love to play England, just to get back at them for the World Cup in 2019. I think of those 3 teams, you'd have to favour India to go through. They just need to win 2 tests in their 4-test series against England. England need to win either 4-0, 3-1, or 3-0 in that series.
Which you can't see, can you?
India, very tough task. And now in Australia, I think they can qualify
if it's a 1-1 draw.
If England win 2-1, I think.
Okay.
Or a 1-1 draw. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there is only the one way that
Australia can
qualify. So
that's sad.
Long way
that. Yeah. Anyway, we're in the final. We don't care. We don't care who we play. We're going to beat them. We're going to win the first World Test Championship, mate. And it's going to be glorious. And it's going to be a redemption after that World Cup loss. Oh, we owe Lords a win.
Yeah, and there won't be any super over either after a Test match. Unless it's a tie.
No,
what do they do if it's a tie?
Oh God! Let's not even go there, mate. Don't talk about that.
Yes, well, the Black Cats will have a good build-up to that.
They will.
With the last week announcing they've got a 2-test series lined up against England with tests at Lords and Edgbaston. It'll be a good build-up for the Kiwis. But I'm getting really annoyed with us just playing 2-test series.
I was going to say the same thing.
What's going on?
I was going to say the same thing, mate. Aren't we ranked number 1? Aren't we the first team in the final? Why do we only ever get 2-test series? Every time I listen to the Australian commentary, they go, "Oh, these test series are just great when they're 5-test series." Well, I can't remember the last time the Black Caps played a 5-test series. No. I think it was probably when I was a teenager. That long ago, Macca. That long ago. And
in 1999 in England, we played a 4-test series.
Yes, and 1999. Yes,
but I don't remember us ever playing a 5-test series. Even back in the 70s, we only had 3 or 4 test series against England.
We played 4 test series against the West Indies, didn't we, in the 80s? Yep. I remember that one. That's the one where Martin Crowe got the 188. I remember, I'm trying to think back, we played in South Africa back when Sutcliffe and Reid. I think we might have played 5 there. But look, it's a long time ago we were played anything more than a 3-test series. And now we're playing 2-test series again. Forget it. It's just dumb. Why 2 tests?
Well,
it's not even a series.
Why. It's the money. Because
if we're number 1, surely we'd get people through the gates,
Exactly. Yeah. The crowds at the Basin Reserve pre-Christmas for the West Indies test were great. The tests in Christchurch, for the test against Pakistan in Christchurch, they had good crowds every day. Mount Maunganui had their first ever test. They had great crowds there.
Yeah.
That was a Boxing Day test, wasn't it?
Yep. New Zealanders are going back to test cricket. Yeah. Why are they going back to test cricket? Because we got a bloody good side and they play exciting cricket. That should work all around the globe. I mean, 2-test series is just a joke. It should be a minimum of 3, maximum of 5. That should be it, But anyway.
Quite right. But Pakistan, they are playing a test series against South Africa at home for the first time in over a decade after playing home games in the United Arab Emirates and Dubai and Abu Dhabi. There hasn't been a test series in Pakistan since the Sri Lanka team bus was attacked in 2009. So South Africa have ventured to pastures unused for quite some time. So and got thrashed in the first test. So maybe they would like to go back to the Emirates.
And it looked like they were playing on the same wicket, and they hadn't done much to it for about a decade either. That dry piece of mud. Honestly, you got to wonder. I mean, the test, the pitches over there are just crazy. But honestly, it maybe just goes to show how good our side is, because Pakistan made South Africa look quite average, to be fair, especially in their batting. And our side didn't seem. We had a few issues against them, but we ran through them fairly easily. And South Africa, for much their much vaunted pace attack, I know the wicket really wasn't helping them, but yeah, they struggled.
Yeah, although in saying that, South Africa have taken a weakened side over to
Yeah,
Pakistan.
they have. Yeah.
They were saving their good players for the series
For-
in Australia, so stuck on that. And also Pakistan are a lot stronger with a couple of injured players that were injured for the New Zealand series playing over there, like Babar Azam is back, and he's number 5 in the world in the batsman.
He's a class player.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about this one, Macca? How about this one? Auckland Club Cricket has confirmed they are outlawing the bouncer at all levels. That was announced last weekend. What are your thoughts on this one?
So what are they going to do if somebody bowls a bouncer? Is it just going to be called a no ball, or?
Yep, no ball.
But what's a bouncer? Is it something that rises above?
I presume it's above the shoulder,
or above shoulder level, or
yeah. Either way, how is this helping anyone who wants to progress their cricketing career to play club cricket in Auckland? I mean, imagine coming out of high school, you play for your first 11, then you go and play for Ellerslie, Howick Pack, Birkenhead, or someone in the play Premier Years. You're 16, 17 years old. You're playing your first game, and they can't bounce you. And then you play 3 or 4 years of club cricket, you make your way through to first class level, and then all of a sudden people can hit you in the head. You're not going to do very well, are you? Doesn't. Yeah, I just cannot understand this. I mean,
young 20-year-old Jimmy Smith from suburbs New Lynn.
Absolutely. First game for Auckland.
He's facing Matt Henry from
absolutely.
Canterbury. First ball he pings him.
Absolutely.
It's just that.
I just don't understand how they think that this is. Maybe they think nowadays players, if they're any good, are going to go into academies and all that sort of thing. But what you're essentially doing is saying our club cricket ain't going to be any preparation for anyone who's going to be a top class cricketer. They're just basically muddying the waters as to who can play club cricket. It's basically going to turn it to social cricket, isn't it? So
yeah, I think in a lot of grades below, your serious grades, your social grades, it's a gentleman's agreement that
absolutely
you don't bowl bouncers. And it only, really, do you see it in the lower grades?
Not really, because people aren't quick enough.
Bouncer is a bit of a joke.
That's right.
Appearing in at 130, 140.
No, it's coming down at 70 Ks.
Yeah. And probably be hit for 6. So
or just lobbing, the tennis ball bounce ones.
I think it's a bit of an overreaction from Auckland cricket.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But now, 40 years ago, Greg Chappell said to brother Trevor, I think you can bowl this one underarm.
Yeah, and Rodney Marsh said, no, mate. Rodney Marsh is saying, no, mate, but I think they're going to bowl this one underarm. In the immortal words of Bill Lawry, this is perhaps a little bit disappointing. A massive understatement of the bloody millennium.
So what are your memories of it, Aaron?
Geez, man, I was 11 years old. I remember watching it and just feeling so angry and so... because I didn't realize at the time that McKechnie was never going to hit it for 6. I just thought we were in with a shake. And that last over, the way that it panned out, there was a couple of really dodgy decisions by their umpires as well. And it just felt like we were being robbed and robbed and robbed and robbed by the Aussies, It felt like that whole summer. And that was just like the big cherry on top of the cake right there. It was just like a big F you to everyone in New Zealand. And I was just, as an 11-year-old, I was just wild, man. I was a wild, angry 11-year-old. And I thought, I'm taking my bat and going down the park where I can play proper cricket and go and play with my mates who won't bowl underarm. It was just, and really, mate, I haven't got over it. 40 odd years later, I'm just as wound up.
Yes, well, I remember it quite vividly. I'm obviously just 1 or 2 years older than you.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was actually the day after my sister's wedding, and we'd had the wedding on the Saturday. That game was on the Sunday, and it was the after-match function was on the Sunday, barbecue round at friend's place. Yeah. And I, being the avid cricket follower that I was in those days, I pretty much set myself up in the lounge and was watching the game. And as the day went on, and of course, then it was the infamous Martin Snedden
Oh,
catch off Greg Chappell.
the Martin Snedden catch. Yep, fantastic catch.
And so that started it. And as the
It did.
game went on, more and more people started to come inside from outside. Because I was running outside with score
Oh,
update,
yeah,
blah blah blah.
yeah.
Steadily, all the men ended up, with about 20 overs to go. Pretty much every man that was at the barbecue was in the lounge watching it. And by that last over, everybody at the barbecue was in the lounge. And the noise coming out of that lounge was unbelievable. And the lounge, of course, was pretty blue.
Were there any Australians at the wedding?
No, there wasn't.
Oh, just as well.
No,
just as well.
He's my ex-brother-in-law now. His sister had lived in Australia for a long time, so her and her husband were there, but they were cheering on New Zealand, of course. But yeah, big memories, and I think Greg Chappell raised it a couple of weeks back when
he
wrote his open letter to Tim Payne about learning from your mistakes. So
yeah. He said he doesn't regret it though. He said he'd do it again. I was just like, whatever.
Well,
Get lost. It was like, but one thing that does often get passed over about that whole situation is Bruce Edgar was at the other end, and he got 100 on that day, and those were the days where hundreds were like hen's teeth. He played so well, and for him to be robbed of that as well, and just the image of him giving him the fingers as well. Just give him the fingers. It was such an 80s insult, wasn't it? Give you a couple of those. And then Jeff Howarth running on the pitch afterwards. And of course, Richie Benaud summing it up so succinctly, like straight afterwards. He said, I just think that was, they got it wrong. And it was one of the worst things I have ever seen on a cricket pitch. Good night. It was just summed it up.
Let's move on from
mate,
and cricket and talk a bit of league. Big news this week. Warriors and Kiwis fullback Roger Tuivasa-Sheck has confirmed he's heading to rugby with the Blues after completing this 2021 season in the NRL. Now, Chris Ritiu in the New Zealand Herald, who everybody thinks fondly of, has said he will just go now. What do you reckon about this, Mr. League man?
Well, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I mean, he's a great league player. He should be playing league, but you can't begrudge the guy for going off and trying to fulfill that All Black dream. Chris Ritiu can just go get stuffed. I mean, it's ridiculous to say. I heard a couple of people on the radio over the weekend as well say, "Oh well," excuse me. "Oh, well, you may as well go get lost now if you want to go to rugby. Get out of the team. And you're obviously not committed." Mate, we'd still have him for another 12 months. He's got one more shot of winning the NRL. He's a great rugby league player. He's going to be a very, very good rugby player. I don't think he'll be quite as good a rugby player as he is a league player, but he'll still be good enough to make the All Blacks. He must have been given some assurances by the rugby union. I'm pretty sure also the rugby union wants him as much as he wants to play rugby union. That's something that hasn't been very well communicated. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'll get something." No, this is a two-part thing. They wouldn't have agreed to sign him unless they wanted him and they thought that he could make the All Blacks better. So I've got every confidence in him doing very well for the All Blacks and for the Blues, or wherever he plays for. He'll do well. I'm just a little bit upset that he's not going to be playing my favorite sport. I just think he's a great rugby league player. But no, go do it, Roger. You're a great player, mate.
And word is he's going to forego the Kiwis tour at the end of the year and play NPC for Auckland. So that will be interesting. Let's have a look at a few others that have played both codes. Obviously, SBW and Brad Thorne have been absolute superstars in both codes. Others who have
both forwards though.
Change. John Kerwin, Mark Carter, Mark Ellis, Matthew Ridge, Craig Innes, and of course, lately Benji Marshall had a fairly unsuccessful transition. So, as you mentioned, Roger has played rugby growing up and played for the Blues under-18 squad, I think it was.
So
I don't think it'll be a difficult transition for him as much as it was for Benji. Benji,
Benji's a different player. Benji was older. He's playing a different position.
yeah,
Roger's going to play wing. I reckon he'll play wing. I mean, that's for me perfect winger. For me, people are saying, well, who's he going to take the place of? Well, for me, he's better than George Bridge and Sevu Reece. Whether he's going to be better at rugby than them, who knows? But he's definitely, I mean, for me, he'd be magnificent on the wing for the All Blacks. And for me, and also a lot of people say, oh, he's too old. Well, he's only 27.
yeah,
He's still not old. He's just been around for a long time. Someone that I can compare him with, as far as people that have changed from league to rugby, for me, Jason Robinson, who played for Wigan for about 8 or 9 years, scored millions of tries for them, and then changed to England for a very similar sort of player too. Very quick stepper, fast footwork, dynamic player. And my God, he was a great rugby player. And he changed at 26 years old. So it's about the same age. And he played a long time for England. So, and the Lions. So for me, I think he'll be a massive success. And go Roger. Go Roger.
Jason Robinson scored the only try for England in their World Cup win in 2003.
That's right. That's right, mate. Great player. And he was, don't you think, very similar sort of style to,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm as a rugby man, I'm delighted that he's coming over. Hope he signs for the Crusaders, but
if he does, you'll have to send one of those other wingers northwards, mate.
Yeah. You rate him ahead of Bridge and Reece. I disagree with Bridge. I think Bridge is a really, really good winger. He probably doesn't have the pace that Roger does, but I think he's got a real rugby head on him and knows when to go and when not to go. Is a great defender. Sevu Reece, he's a bit more up and down. I definitely would put Roger ahead of Sevu Reece. But yeah, we mentioned Benji Marshall there. He's signing for the Rabbitohs to play again under the great Wayne Bennett. And he's also under consideration to make his first appearance for the New Zealand Maori against the Indigenous All-Stars in the game on February 20. What do you think?
He's actually announced today that he is going to play in that game. David Kidwell has said he's jumping out of his skin to play for the New Zealand Maori. It's going to be his first game in this game for about a decade. He said that he wanted to play in this game for the last little while, but his previous club sides haven't allowed him to. The Rabbitohs are a completely different beast as far as that. They want all their players to play in these games. Obviously, relinking with Wayne Bennett, and Wayne Bennett likes what he sees, even though Benji's age, he's going to provide all sorts of mentoring for the young halves there at the Rabbitohs. It's a great signing as far as I'm concerned for the Rabbitohs. And the other big news is that Israel in the rugby league is that Israel Folau may be signing for the Dragons. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's going to really put the cat amongst the pigeons, isn't it, if the NRL allow it? Personally, I can't see how they can allow it. The chairman's already come out and said he doesn't want him. So whether the CEO goes against his own chairman is going to be interesting. Israel Folau, great player. Just shut your mouth.
Yeah, the thing with Israel Folau, and I hear so many people say this, well, the rugby, NRL is full of players that have done so many bad things and all that sort of. The difference here is that Israel Folau has never said sorry for anything he's done. No. He's never been repentant. All the people that play for the NRL that have convictions or anything like that, they've served their time, they've done their thing, they've come back, they've said they're repentant, they said they signed disclaimers to say they won't do anything like that. Israel Folau has said, I'm not changing. He said that from the start. And and the role model thing, people that say they're not role models, well, look, you can say that for all you like. If you're going to play the top level, you are a role model. And if you're saying hateful, spiteful things against a whole sector of society, I don't care whether it's, women, your race, whatever it is, man. If you say hateful shit like that and you're a role model, you don't deserve to be in that position. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see where that goes. But unless he says sorry and unless he says that he definitely won't do it again, I say nowhere near it, mate.
Quite right. On to the other Oval Ball code, and new Australian rugby CEO Andy Marinos has said that New Zealand rugby won't be getting everything their way now he has taken over the reins in Sydney. He believes his predecessors, Raylene Castle amongst those, have let the Kiwis walk all over them in the past. Walk all over them. Have they really?
Well, the thing is, we hold all the power, buddy. I mean, we're the team that everyone wants to watch. You've had your Wallaby team have been average, bang average for ages. The only reason you half full your stadiums is because you're playing us. So I don't know. I don't know what planet are you coming from? How are you going to play hardball with us?
Oh,
I mean, we got the
yes, an interesting statement. My reply to Andy Marinas is good luck with that.
Yeah, it's like the New Zealand Rugby League saying, "Oh man, we're not going to listen to the Australian Rugby League anymore. We're going to do it. The Warriors are going to play in the local what?
Yeah,
They hold all the power, mate. I mean,
good on you. His first move has been putting Australia up to host this year's Springbok Lions series.
Oh,
The COVID situation in South Africa. So,
Can you see that happening?
No, not really.
No.
The Lions would rather have the tour in England or in the UK rather than sending it to the other side of the world.
The whole thing
is if they play in South Africa, it's the same time zone for England.
That's right.
So they can make lots of money from TV. If they send it across the other side of the world, it's breakfast television, isn't it? It's not prime.
Absolutely. And look, mate, you and I have said this from the start. The Lions is all about the fans. It's the touring. It's the bringing fans. And you play the Lions and South Africa in Australia. What the hell is that? What's the point? Can it until COVID's over, mate.
Oh, quite right. Quite right.
You know? A chip off the old block with Sevens legend Eric Rush's son Brady being called up to the New Zealand Sevens squad with a full-time contract. The 21-year-old credits tales of his father's gut-busting trainings with the legendary coach Sir Gordon Titchens, providing the inspiration for his ascent through the ranks. There's a lot of young guys from the previous generation coming through, a lot of their sons coming through. What are your thoughts on this guy, Brady Rush?
Yeah,
great name for a start.
I've never seen him play, but just reading the articles about him, looks like he's quite a good player. Well, obviously, if he's being given a full-time contract. And talking about others from the same era, Gus Ledger's son, Auburn Ledger's been playing Super Rugby and NPC Rugby, and quite a few others. I can't think of any other names off the top of my head, but
Caleb Clark, Caleb Clark, and also Michael Jones's son as well. Yep. There's just so many of them. It's great. I mean,
Hoskins Satutu, Waisaki was from that era as well. But good luck to Brady Rush. Hopefully you turn out, if you're half as good as what your father was, you'll be a superstar, mate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't you call your kid Bull, though, if you had the surname Rush? Anyway, maybe a good nickname for him. Hey, let's move stateside, shall we? Baseball, mate. Not a single person voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame this year for the first time since 1960. No one making the 75% mark to get inducted after pitchers Curt Schilling and Roger Clemens, along with all-time home run leader Barry Bonds, miss out again. Can I understand why Barry Bonds missed out? Why Curt Schilling and Roger Clemens? Why would they miss out, mate?
Well, Curt Schilling was a great pitcher with Hall of Fame numbers, but he's from the Trump camp. And very outspoken on Twitter, especially around QAnon theories and support for the Capitol insurrection.
Oh, is he?
And he's just basically,
an idiot. He's an idiot.
He's an idiot. Came out against the Black Lives Matter movement, saying all lives matter, and promoting that across his Twitter feed. You look at his Twitter feed; it's just absolute bollocks. It looks like it come from Trump himself. So he's now said, I don't want to be considered in my final year of voting. Well, tough luck, pal.
Really?
Baseball Hall of Fame doesn't listen to queries from individual players. If they want you on the ballot, you'll be on the ballot.
Just ask Pete Rose.
Yeah, exactly. While obviously alleged steroid use for Clemens and Bonds has forced their non-election. All three, they've got one more year of eligibility, but as I said, Curt Schilling said he doesn't want to be considered. And all players on the voting list have 10 years of eligibility, basically.
Mm.
You go on the ballot 5 years after you've announced your retirement. So, yeah, you basically have to wait 5 years before you're eligible, and then you have 10 years of eligibility. So those three guys have only got 1 year left. The 2020 inductees, Derek Jeter and Larry Walker, will be formally enshrined in the Hall in July this year after last year's ceremony was cancelled due to COVID. But yeah, really interesting that nobody managed to get to the 75%. Schilling was closest. He has gone up in the voting over the last 2 to 3 years, but after his latest outbursts, I don't think many people will be voting for him next year. So we'll just got to wait and see what happens there. Since 1960, not even
That's
from
crazy.
the Veterans Committee, who normally nominate one or two former
So
players.
basically, you're sort of thinking about 20 years ago. So about 20 years ago, we're talking about 1991. So we're talking about really from 1988 to about 1993, around the areas of that's when the players were. When you think back to those days, Macca, there were a lot of good players playing back then, that you'd think that them, why? Why is there no one? It's crazy.
Yeah, so interesting to see what happens in the future. I thought Omar Vizquel might have been up there, but apparently he has had some allegations about domestic abuse leveled against him. So people don't vote for people like that. Andy Pettit was another one I thought might get a bit closer this year.
But he played for the Yankees, so no.
Oh yeah, and of course he admitted to steroid use as well. So
See, that's the thing with the Hall of Fame, mate. Obviously, they need to be a great player, but they've obviously got something where they need to be a little bit more than they need to be a good person too.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you look at some players from, I'm talking a long time ago now.
Yeah.
The likes of Ty Cobb, who
Ty Cobb,
he
bad
was a
man
great player, but he was a bad man.
There's a great movie, isn't it? Called Ty Cobb with
yeah.
Oh God, I can't. But it's a great movie.
Jones,
he was
Cobb.
a terrible man. He was domestic abuse, all sorts of stuff. Rumors that he took money and he was a brutal player as well. He used to take players out with his studs up, all sorts of stuff.
He'd go cleats up into bases.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, top free agent pitcher Trevor Bauer is still waiting to sign for a new team or his previous team, Cincinnati Reds. The Mets have supposedly put a huge 3 to 4 year deal offer to him, but he's yet to accept that. Just taking a look at some of the other winners and losers from the baseball off season so far. The Mets have done well. They picked up Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco in that trade with Cleveland. They've also picked up James McCann, a catcher, and a reliever, Aaron Luke. The Blue Jays have had a good winter. George Springer, they signed him. They got Tyler Chatwood, a starting pitcher from the Cubs, Kirby Yates, a reliever, and just this week signed Marcus Semien, a shortstop from the Oakland Athletics. Padres have had a very busy off-season. They've signed pitchers Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, who was with Tampa Bay Rays in that World Series last year, and Joe Musgrove they picked up from Pittsburgh. They've also picked up catcher Vic Caratini and infielder Jurickson Profar. The Yankees have had a good off-season, picking up starting pitchers Corey Kluber and Jamison Taillon, and Jahulis Chassin, another one of those great sporting names.
What's his name?
Jahulis Chassin. He's a Dominican relief.
That's great.
And
awesome.
re-signed DJ LeMahieu, the infielder, which was a must do for the Yankees. The Phillies, they've not really signed any new big names, but they have re-signed catcher JT Realmuto and shortstop Didi Gregorius, who, of course, visited New Zealand a few years ago when he was with
one of your old mates.
Yep, good lad, Didi. The losers so far, Boston have really done not a lot. Their second baseman, legendary Dustin Pedroia, has just announced his retirement yesterday. The only real signings they've made, they picked up Adam Ottavino, a relief pitcher from the Yankees, in a rare trade with the Yankees. It's a bit like Liverpool
Man United
buying a Man United player.
Never
Um,
happens.
and they've also signed utility Kike Hernandez, and they're also going to get Chris Sale, who's a superstar pitcher. They'll get him back mid-season after Tommy John surgery. The Cubs have had a real clean out. They've lost Kyle Schwarber, pitchers John Lester, Yu Darvish, Tyler Chatwood, and Jose Quintana, as well as Albert Almora Jr., an outfielder, and they could still yet lose their superstar third baseman Chris Bryant, who could be going in a trade. The Rays haven't really done much, but they have lost two of their three main pitchers from that World Series team, and Blake Snell and Charlie Morton. They've just got Tyler Glasnow left from that trio. And the teams that have really done nothing, Dodgers have done nothing. They've not re-signed Justin Turner yet, the third baseman. And they've not lost anybody. They've not really gained anybody. And the Diamondbacks have done very, very much the same. Both teams have picked up the odd relief pitcher here and there, but have had quiet off seasons. Of course, it's still plenty of time. MLB announced couple of days ago that they'd put a proposal forward to the Players Association to reduce the season to 154 games, starting a month later.
Okay.
But the Players Association refused that, and so they're going ahead with normal spring training, which means they'll be getting together in a couple of weeks. Their various spring training venues in Florida and Arizona, and the season will start on time, full 162 game card with I think they're going with the universal DH, so that means pitchers won't be hitting in the National League.
Okay, so as far as COVID goes, are they confident that they're going to be able to tackle all that if anything hits with some of the teams? What are they going to do?
Yeah, they MLB was a bit nervous about it. Obviously, wanting to start the season a month later, and saying that even though the season would be shortened, players would still get their full pay. But the Players Association didn't like that, and they wanted to go back to full season with full spring training. So, of course, there will be conditions on that in relation to COVID testing, and of course, once I guess all the players get their vaccines.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go, because I mean, it obviously affected the NFL season. There were a number of teams that sort of had players and isolated players, all that. Whether they, if a few players from a team get infected, whether they carry on, just isolate them, just carry on. Because the thing is with baseball that we all know is that you play every couple of days. So it's like you can't really postpone games. You don't have any time, do you? So be bloody interesting to see how that runs. Let's stay stateside though, mate. The NFL, of course, the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl has been set. The teacher versus the pupil, as we've coined it. Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes in the AFC. The Buffalo Bills made it to the conference finals for the first time since 1993 before losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. That was a close one, though. And while in the NFC, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers held off a late run to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Who you got in the Super Bowl, Macca?
Wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. Tampa have proved me wrong every round of the playoffs. And Tom Brady's just come out and said he wants to play till he's 45, which is another couple of years. So, yes, it's his.
Retire already!
It's his 10th Super Bowl.
Unbelievable.
Which is unbelievable. He's won 7 of them so far. It's hard to go past them. But it's also hard to go past the Chiefs. They've been playing some great football. And, of course, Patrick Mahomes is just an absolute superstar at quarterback. So,
yeah.
I'm going to go the Chiefs, but it's going to be very, very close. And could come down to the final play.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Chiefs as well, just because if Tom Brady wins this, he's going to be called the GOAT forever, isn't he? I mean, he will. He'll be like, no one can ever beat him. It doesn't really matter. Even if Patrick Mahomes makes the next 4 Super Bowls, he still won't have enough. Mahomes is just amazing. He's just an amazing player. But like you say, I've been doubting Tom Brady and the Buccaneers all season, and look where it's got us. So, mate, it should be a really, really good game, shouldn't it? And I mean, as far as the master and the apprentice, I mean, you can't get any better than that. This is the guy that's got the most versus the guy that's probably got the most talent. So it's It's going to be a great day. I'm really looking forward to it. Get the nachos ready and
quite
the
right.
chicken wings. It's going to
Get
be a
the
great
Miller on
crowd.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
A funny story I read the other day about Tampa's Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah,
Gronk,
yeah.
apparently when he first signed for the Buccaneers, they said they wanted him to film himself doing sprints every day for a week.
Hmm.
And apparently what Gronk did was he
Come
filmed
on.
them all in one day, but changed his T-shirt for every different
Oh, very good. Very good. That'd have saved him some work.
typical Gronk.
How did they find out? Did he tell them?
I think he probably told them in the after they, I think it was either just before or just after they signed him. I think just to prove his
Yeah.
thing.
He's one of a kind, that guy.
Oh,
He's just he just seems to not have a care in the world. He just
no,
sort of, but gee, what an absolutely huge human being. My God, he's hard.
absolutely.
He's hard to tackle, isn't he?
Yeah.
Now, if Tampa wins, it means that only two cities have shared the four main sports titles. Los Angeles in the NBA, MLB, and Tampa, NHL and NFL. And Tampa made 3 of the 4 finals, with the Rays losing to the MLB to the Dodgers. They're also the first side to make the Super Bowl in their hometown. How's that, man? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, the home of sports in America.
Quite right. It's a big year for Tampa and Los Angeles. It will be quite a feat for those 4 titles to just go to 2 cities. I'm pretty sure they've never gone to one city ever.
Don't think so.
But yeah, to just go to 2. I mean, normally, the sides down south don't feature too strongly, and especially in the hockey league. It's a bit hot down there for ice hockey.
I know. I often think that, when you hear those teams, the Florida Panthers, and you're like, whoa, there's ice in Florida. The big trade in the NFL in the last few days, mate, has been Jared Goff from the LA Rams traded with Stafford from the Detroit Lions. 2 quality quarterbacks going each way. And who do you think got the best in this trade?
To be honest, I don't really follow the NFL close enough to give an expert opinion. I mean, Matthew Stafford, they're both number 1 draft picks in their respective classes. I mean, Stafford is a very good quarterback, but he's played on a shit Detroit team for a long time.
Yeah, he has. And he's injured all the time.
Yeah. It's a bit like Liverpool getting Ozan Kabak, going from a crap Schalke team that's only won 1 game all year to the champions. So, yeah, I think possibly Los Angeles have got the best of that deal.
Maybe.
I think they've faltered in, certainly this year, with a bit of inexperience on behalf of Goff. He's I think they're 3rd year, I think, of NFL. It was about 4 years ago. I think he got drafted number 1 by the then St. Louis Rams, and
but he made a Super Bowl as well.
He has played in the Super Bowl.
He's younger than Stafford, and also the Detroit Lions get a bunch of draft picks as well. I think 2 first rounds and 1 second round.
They need them.
I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that trade goes. But you don't often see 2 sort of first round, the top quarterbacks going in that direction. I found that a really interesting trade. Shall we move to motorsport, mate? Shane Van Gisbergen.
Go there.
Go on.
I just remembered one other baseball trade when you mentioned the trade of Stafford and Goff. Nolan Arenado, the Colorado Rockies superstar third baseman, has been traded to the St. Louis Cardinals in a real mammoth trade. 2 years ago, Arenado signed an 8-year, $260 million deal with the Colorado Rockies, and they've decided they want to rebuild and don't want to have to pay Arenado all that money for the next 8 years. He did have opt-out clauses after next year and the year after, but yeah, so he's gone to St. Louis. St. Louis have paid $50 million in salary payments to the Rockies on behalf of Arenado. Plus they've traded, I think, about 6 prospects. So,
Far out.
yeah, Arenado, I think he'd come to the conclusion that if he was going to stay at the Rockies, he probably wasn't going to get anywhere near playing in the World Series. So,
Well, that's the thing. St. Louis are one of those giant teams, aren't they? They're one of those
yeah,
giant teams, and big stars play for St. Louis. So fair
yeah.
enough. Shall we go to motorsport, mate? Shane Van Gisbergen adds another different type of motor race to his growing list of achievements over the past 12 months. He's won the New Zealand Grand Prix at Hampton Downs over the weekend, having won the Bathurst 1000 in the supercar and the Jacks Ridge Classic in a rally car. Man, this guy can drive, can't he, Macca?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just a superstar. And what made it more spectacular was that he had to, because he had a problem with his car, had to start from pit lane, which effectively meant he was starting in last place. So he's gone through the whole field, beaten other great drivers. Greg Murphy was in that. Kenny Smith has been racing in that race for over 50 years.
How old is Kenny Smith, mate? He must be far out. That guy is just a legend.
Yeah. Other supercar drivers, Andre Heimgartner was in that race. And there were a couple of other young up-and-coming young drivers that were also in the race. But Shane Van Gisbergen, what an absolute superstar behind a wheel.
It's almost like if he starts at the back, he's almost like more motivated. He's one of those guys, where you give him a little shove, you give him a little, a little bit of any sort of anything that'll sort of make him feel like, fire him up, and he just sort of seems to rise, doesn't he? Seems to get better and better the more that things are thrown his way. He's just a hell of a driver, and to go from driving a saloon car to a single seater to a rally car and be bloody good in all of them, man, the guy could probably ride a Vespa bloody quick, I mean, he's just a hell of a driver, isn't he? And what made him all the more spectacular, like you say, was out of the pit lane. How the hell do you do that from that far back, mate? What a driver!
Yeah, he's foot down, bugger the consequences.
Absolutely, and we love guys that drive like that. Shall we go to the Olympics, mate? Is it happening? Crikey. The IOC claims the games are going ahead. We've been saying for weeks that they shouldn't be. The organising committee say they're ready, but the Japanese government is set on cancelling the games for the first time since the Second World War, since just before you and I were born, mate.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
The IOC, they're just being absolutely pig-headed. It's stupid to think the games will go on this year.
So dumb.
I mean, even last year, they were one of the last sporting competitions to say, okay,
postpone.
It's probably not going to be a good idea to have them this year. We'll have them next year, though.
Yeah.
And so they were pig-headed then. They're being pig-headed now. Yes, I know they've invested a lot of money in it, but, health of your nation comes first.
Absolutely.
And hence the Japanese government saying what
and Macca, it's once again, it's one of those events, the Olympics. It needs spectators.
Absolutely.
Without spectators at an Olympics, it's like having a World Cup football final or a Super Bowl without spectators.
Yeah.
Even the Super Bowl is going to have spectators. You haven't got any spectators at the Olympics. Look, ballroom dancing and break dancing is not the same without people watching, mate. Is it? Come on.
Quite right.
Yeah. So just call it off. I just reckon push it out to 2024 and just push all the Olympics out. So give it to Japan in 2024, and America can go the year after. I mean,
what the Japanese Prime Minister said was, let's have them in 2036 because the 2024 and 2028 games have already been scheduled. So they've obviously put a lot of groundwork into those. He says the infrastructure is already here. We'll just hold them in 12 years' time. And
far out. That's the most sensible thing I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done. Common sense in sport.
I should say.
Yeah, common sense in sport. Who knew it existed?
Yeah.
We've got a couple of RIPs, mate. A couple of people have gone to the great beyond.
Sad week in sport. Rest in peace, hammering Hank Aaron, the real home run king with 755 home runs. He was eventually taken over by former San Francisco Giants slugger Barry Bonds, who has a history of steroid use. So in my eyes and in the eyes of many a baseball fan, Hank Aaron was the real home run champ. He was the National League MVP and World Series winner in 1957, 25 times All-Star. that just shows how long he's played the game. 2
25
times National League batting champ, 4 times National League home run leader, 4 times National League RBI leader, 3-time Gold Glove winner. Played for only one franchise, the Braves, although they were in 2 cities over that time, firstly in Milwaukee and later in Atlanta. Not just a slugger. You take away his 755 home runs, and he still had over 3,000 hits, which is
That's
absolutely
crazy number.
incredible. And he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1982. Hank Aaron, just an absolute superstar. And to come from where he was as a young kid growing up in Alabama, in the, I guess you could call it the slums, to come out of there and turn into the type of baseball player and person. He was a genuine all-round good guy. My old boss at Baseball New Zealand, Ryan Flynn, had the pleasure of meeting him at the Hall of Fame a number of years ago when Ryan was growing up, and he always used to go to the Hall of Fame ceremonies to collect autographs. And he always says that meeting Hank Aaron was just an absolute pleasure, and the guy just had time to stop and have a chat with everybody he signed an autograph for. So a real gentleman taken away from the sport of baseball. Rest in peace, Hank Aaron.
What a class act day, man. I mean, what a pure swing that man had. It wasn't like the real, you look at Barry Bonds and he was just all muscle and grunt, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And Hank Aaron was just the pure, just a beautiful swing of a bat. What a player he was. Henry Hank Aaron. Does he still own the record for the most hits? I think he's still got the record, hasn't he?
No, Pete Rose.
Doesn't he?
Most hits.
Oh, Pete Rose went past. Has he still got a record though? I'm sure that he's still got some sort of record.
No, he as I
Have
say,
they all been?
he's in my eyes the real home run king. But Barry Bonds overtook that about 10 years ago.
And of course, you got to think back to when he was playing as well. Home runs weren't anywhere near as prevalent as what they are now, were they?
No, exactly.
You know?
I mean, he had probably at least 10 seasons with more than 40 home runs a season. So
Absolutely.
Just an incredible player. And he, of course, started out playing in the 1950s. Jackie Robinson was the first, obviously, in the 1940s, but those black players in the leagues
early days
just suffered so much abuse, and for him to come through it with his chin held high and to what he did, just an incredible player and an incredible person.
Yeah, just a class act, mate. And someone else that left us from the sporting world this past week, a little bit closer to home, was Peter Thorburn, North Harbour rugby coach stalwart. He served in his capacity for the founding of the union from 1985 to 1991. He brought through people like Buck Shelford and Walter Little and Frank Bunce and Glenn Osborne and all those great players from the North Harbour rugby union. He was really innovative in his thinking. Some of those early games, absolutely, for the flying wedge type style stuff. And he was great at organising the backline as well. Had a real good sense of humour. Really enjoyed him. And he also was assistant coach for the All Blacks for a number of years. Really liked Peter Thorburn, a really, really nice guy. I met him a few times. Top bloke, always had time for people. Rest in peace, Peter Thorburn as well. He passed away this week at the age of 81 in Takapuna. Very sad. Okay, mate, let's just move to the box just quickly before we finish. I don't know whether you saw this over the last few weeks. I've been watching the Tiger Woods documentary. Have you seen any of it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I've seen it. I've never been a big Tiger Woods fan. I mean, I used to admire him on the golf course, used to really admire what he could do as a sportsman, but I always had a creepy suspicion that something wasn't all right with him. And I was dead right, He was
you and a lot of others.
Sleeping with 1,000 women and and collecting all the sponsorship money for the squeaky clean image that he was purveying. Beyond the golf, it's a strange story, man. His dad was obviously behind a lot of his success in the early years, and he was obviously his major role model. And what the documentary showed in a number of ways was that he didn't really show him the way to treat women early on. He was often philandering around the golf course in front of his young son, which can't have been a good thing. But then again, I took it on board and I just sort of thought, well, there's lots of kids that deal with that sort of thing that don't end up philanderers, do they?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know he had the opportunity and the means and all that sort of thing to do it, but yeah, I just find it really hard to like the guy as a person. Still really admirable as a sports person, but as a human being, he just creeps me out. He just creeps me out as a human being. But really interesting documentary, man. I suggest you do watch it. It gives you a real insight into the man that was probably the world's most successful golfer, but he's never going to reach Jack's total of 18, is he?
Oh no, absolutely not.
Bad luck,
yeah, he's an interesting character, as you say. You respect him a lot for his early years of golfing, and a bit like Lance Armstrong, really. You were just waiting for the dirty side to come out, and of course it did. So I don't know whether I'll watch it.
It's worth a watch, man. Even if you look like me and you're a massive skeptic, and it's just, especially those early days, the real early stuff when he was just doing stuff on a golf course that just no one else could. You could think. The second part gets into the sleazy side of it. But the first part I really enjoyed. Just the making of a champion and all that sort of thing. So really worth watching. Something else that's been on the TV recently, and actually just a couple of kilometers that way in the Hauraki Golf, mate, is the America's Cup. What are your thinkings on the America's Cup? We've danced around this in the last couple of podcasts. It's getting towards the climax of the competition. You excited yet?
No. Now, Mark Reason, who's not an opinion writer that I often agree with, but he put an article on Stuff yesterday saying that America's Cup is about wealth and privilege, not diversity. And it's actually a really great article. And I think he's hit the nail on the head with this one. If you think back 20 to 30 years, there were at least a dozen challengers vying for the right to sail for the Cup. And even the holders, there was always a series of 3 or 4 boats wanting to fight it out to see who defended the Cup. There was always that defenders series. Now, only 3 boats this time. And the last series from memory in Bermuda, I think there was only 3, maybe 4. And as Mark Reason states, it is now very much about wealth and privilege. I, as a general rule, don't follow the Cup anymore, as I believe it's a glorified Formula One on water. It's more about the money and so-called prestige, and it's taken the sport away from the everyday people. I think it's time for a huge overhaul, and this is whoever wins it basically sets the rules.
That's right.
Whoever does it, I think let's not go all the way back to, the mid 1980s, when the boats were pretty slow. Let's go back to normal boats that sail in the water. It's a lot easier to watch now with all the graphics and everything over the screen, so you can make it a lot more exciting for the people. But make it a competition that more than 3 or 4 people or countries, in that matter, can actually afford.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, look, the thing is, you can watch this and go, "Wow!" It's great to watch and go, "Wow, that's a sight. That's technology. That's amazing. How the hell are they moving at 60 kilometers and 12 kilometers of wind, mate? That's all fine and good. Great watch. Make a great documentary." But for me, it's not sport. Don't try and dress it up and say that it's the highest level of competition and all that. When there's only that few teams, it's just not. And sport is about competition, equal competition between teams. It's just not. And I just don't know how you can dress it up as anything other than that.
I would far rather watch an Olympic sailing regatta than
absolutely
than watching this rubbish.
Absolutely, and like you say, let's. If we lower the cost of the boats, you'll get more challenges. It's as simple as that, isn't it? I mean, no one can afford $1 billion for a boat. I mean, that's basic. I mean, you look at the cost. I mean, these things are basically they're like a 747, and they probably cost about the same. And it's just
more.
there you go. I mean,
I actually particular note of one paragraph in Mark Reason's article, and I'll read it out to you. At the
Go on.
moment, the America's Cup looks like a regatta for white blokes of immense wealth and privilege. I looked at the crew list for American Magic, and amongst the 164 mugshots, I did not pick out one black face. So whatever happened to Black Lives Matter in sailing, they not only don't matter, they don't even exist.
Wow. And they may be beaten by a boat called Black Magic, so the irony won't be.
Well,
yeah, mate.
They're not going to get the chance to race against Black Magic.
Yeah, well, that's the truth. No, mate, it's not. It's just like you say. I used to really enjoy the America's Cup pre all that, all the computer graphics and all that sort of thing, because it was a competition. It was more country based as well. It seems like we had a national team. They dress it up like that now. They put our boat in black. They put a fern on us. They said. But it's not, mate. We've got all we've got New Zealanders in every other team. We've got Americans in our team, and all other Australians and from people from the UK. So don't try and dress it. It's not that. It's just technology. That's what it is. It's technology, and it looks neat. But when there's only 4 teams, it's not even Super Rugby, is it, mate?
No. Quite right. On that note, we'll bring this sermon to an end, and lots of sporting action coming up over the next week or so. So the Premier League starting to get to the interesting phase.
We got the Man City game coming up, mate. Man City, Liverpool.
On the cricket front, obviously, and we'll follow that India-England Test series with great interest. So it's a good night for all. Good afternoon from me.
And it's a good night from him. We'll see you next time. Good night.